what is it that you like when you sit down to do work? What is like the first thing that you're actually drawn to be doing? Like, what do you enjoy the most?
I like taking hot messes and making them clean. And so it's because I don't have a particular industry niche. It has been like I signed a travel agency recently, and it's very interesting the way the model works and how they get paid by their parents' agency and things like that. And so there are certain tools that have to be in place for them to get paid, but then we had to kind of reconfigure and figure out how to make things make sense and also track commissions because she needs to figure out her cash flow and all the things. I love that. That's what I sit with. I'll sit with that and I'm like, okay, this goes here. Let's look at this tool. This tool costs too much. It doesn't even make sense. Let's look at something else. And so that I love to do. And then once I put that together, then it's putting it together.
Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm Serena Shoup. I am a CPA and mom of 3, and I'm running a virtual bookkeeping business mostly from my home. You're in the right place if you're a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you know that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies to help you start and grow a bookkeeping or accounting business, I hope you stick around. Welcome back to the Ambitious Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Serena Shoup. This is part of our niche series. As part of this series spanning July and August, you'll be listening in on interviews with niche bookkeepers and accountants. I thought it would be really inspirational and super valuable to bring on bookkeepers and accountants who have built niche firms to take you behind the curtain of what it looks like to get to the point of serving in a specific niche. My hope is that you'll gain the inspiration and information that will help you hone in on your niche, or if you already have one, find different ways to help your clients. I'll be asking some similar questions of each of our guests, like what their minimum fee is, how they got into their niche, and what their firm team structure looks like. I'm super excited to bring this to you, and I hope that you enjoy. If you're ready to hone in on your own niche and build a bookkeeping business that gives you the life that you want, check out the Bookkeeping Business Accelerator by going to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/BBA. The link is also in the show notes. If finding a perfect fit client is something that you've needed, check out my mini course, The Bookkeeping Client Closer. Go to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/closer. All the links will be in the show notes. Now let's get into today's episode. Today is one of our special on-air strategy sessions where I have invited someone from my group, or I guess maybe this one went out in an email that I sent out, but you also happen to be in one of my programs. So yes, that tends to happen too. It's like, I think the people that are like, they've worked with me and they kind of understand what's going to happen, they're more willing to come on air and be like, help me in front of everybody. So this is one of those special strategy sessions in exchange for a free mentoring session. We air it on the podcast and I'm super excited to have you. Would you like to introduce yourself, where you're at in your business, what type of business owners you help, all that good stuff?
My name is Barbara. I'm a New Jersey-based bookkeeping firm. The name of my firm is called Elmwood Bookkeepers. And I'm still pretty much a generalist. My kind of hashtag or whatever is modern businesses. And what I mean by that is just people who are really comfortable with technology and using all of the efficient tools to make the back end easier. So I find that I end up helping people come out of the old school way of doing things and bring them up to date. So currently my roster, I have quite a few. I have some counseling centers. I have an architect. I have a yoga business. It's kind of a mishmash. But the main thing is that for me, it was important for me to use my skill set to help people who are doing good things in their community. So for me, that first came out as a wellness business, and it was kind of like a little too niche down, like, yoga, esthetician, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of expanded to be really impactful, purposeful businesses. So I have 3 mental health businesses that I support. And then I have an employment consultant who works with special needs youth and adults. And I have the yoga business as well. And then there are some just like service providers that are just good people who I want to help. But the passion and the purpose behind Elmwood is really to get behind those who want to bring change into their communities through whether it be self-care practices or talking about mental health, getting treatment, or all the things. So there's a lot of heart in what I do and who I want to work with.
Yeah, I love that. That's so important to be working with people that have similar values. A lot
Yeah.
of times when we talk about niching, it's more like industry focused or whatever, but for those of you who don't know that industry that they want to be in, like that's where I recommend focusing on, is like making sure you're working with clients that have similar values to you. Because that's what's going to make it enjoyable.
Exactly. So my niche is a good human. That's a
Yeah.
big deal to me. I don't know if it was like Ben Robinson or something. On some bookkeeping podcast, they were like, if I wouldn't want to go and have a drink with you, I don't want to work with you or for you or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's my litmus test.
Yeah. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Okay. So before we hit record, we were kind of talking about some things that you have going on in your business and areas that you wanted to focus on today. So you are at a point where you have brought on 2 staff bookkeepers, correct?
Yes.
Are they both part-time, full-time? Are they contractors? What's the story there?
They're part-time contractors.
Okay. And you are wanting to, actually, I'll just let you ask the question. What do you want to focus on today?
I mean, honestly, I feel like I mentioned before, I feel like I've got a good handle on things, but I also know that I don't want to be arrogant and say I've got this. And I just feel like you're obviously much more advanced than me, and you've been through the trenches. So I'm just like, what am I not seeing? You know what I mean? So I have, my Asana built out. I use Keeper. I have really good streamlined tools. And, even with I've taken Keep Up with Asana. I've done all the things, you know what I mean? So at this point, I'm like, okay, the opportunity came where a CPA that I was working with had a bookkeeper who she wanted to get deeper into the work versus really, she was super part-time with the CPA. And I'm like, yes, someone who's vetted out like already, perfect. And so for me, it was the big trust thing of finding someone who I could trust. And so that kind of helped that piece. But in terms of doing the work and delegating the work and the tools, I feel like maybe we should do an audit and say, okay, ask me the questions. And I'm like, well, this is my solution for this.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I have too many things and they're like, I'm doing too much, I don't know. So I think that I want to do kind of like a gut check, a sanity check to make sure that that I'm not overly exhausting myself. I am an analyzer, and I still try to keep pushing through. I'm out of that perfectionism place, which is good. But I think that's what's important for me, is to know that after doing all the research and building out my infrastructure and building out my tech stack, and now I'm in the place where, okay, we're just doing the work and I'm focusing on my team. It's new for me because I don't hear a lot of people talking about, what do you do once everything's set up and it's set up properly? What do you do then? You're just doing the work. Now I'm up, I'm increasing my skill set. I'm taking Elevate. I'm reading all the good books and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm doing all the things, but then I'm just like, am I doing too much? So that's where my head's at.
Okay. So what is a typical day for you? Like, are you finding that you need more things to fill your time now that you've delegated, or are you feeling like there's definitely things that you could delegate, you're just not really sure where to start with that? Where are you at as far as that goes?
So in terms of delegating the team, because they literally just came on Friday, so it's very new. However, my plan, at least for the remainder of this year, is to give them my maintenance clients. So because I left corporate in November, officially last November, and I had the business on the side and I was doing all the things, doing all the research and building out my infrastructure, so that when I did leave, I just had to turn up the volume and things were flowing. And so in the past, however many months, I've been in a client acquisition stage. And with that comes all the things that it comes with. But there's just a lot of front-loaded work right now of setups and cleanups, setups and cleanups, setups and cleanups. And also kind of some fintech advisory stuff because people were using the wrong tools. They were crappy banks. There's a lot of troubleshooting. So that's my space and it keeps me really busy. But then the people who at the top of the year who I bought on, cleaned up, everything's nice and swimming, they don't want to let me go. Great. Now I have you on a system and you have their cycle. my plan for my team is to give them those people that I've cleaned up. I need you to maintain it to the standard that I've showed you guys, and off we go. So that's where I'm at. So I feel like I'm busy, and I think that my concern for myself is I don't want to burn myself out too, because as a high performer, you're in corporate, you're like do 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 all the time, and it's just like I'm feeling that same bit of anxiety kind of flare up. I'm like, hey, because I'm so used to being busy. I was the typical workaholic, the typical over performer. Give me the project, give me the project. I don't know. I was trying to prove myself, and it's helped me be successful in corporate. I did well, and it helps me in my business because I get things done, but it's not sustainable. I don't want to be at this same pace 3 years in full time, that I'm like, it's not good for your nervous system.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that I feel like maybe this is the thing that clicked for me. Like, how can I find rest in my business when I'm so used to working and doing and getting the satisfaction of seeing the fruit of my labor? I feel like now I'm in a place where I've done the work so I can coast safely, but I don't know how to turn it off. I don't know how to not be the thing and the one and the do and take on a new project. And so I think I'm sick, because I told myself I'd never do a restaurant. And God's like, oh, I'm going to take this restaurant. And at first I told him no, I was good. I put my boundaries up. But then I was like, the challenge, and I spent like hours researching the tools, and then I signed him. You know what I mean? And so that's great, and the revenue and all that stuff, but I know I have this bad habit of just doing too much, doing too much, doing too much. And I'm just so used to it. And I'm like, I don't want to crash and burn, because I want to be in Elmwood Bookkeepers to be here 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So I think that, like with you, you have, of course, bookkeeping, you have Ambitious, you have all the things. And so I'm curious, how do you manage that? And you have children. I don't even have kids yet. God, I don't even know how you guys do it. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, and then I was like, I want a podcast. I'm like, no podcast. I was talking to my friend, and I was just like, how do I tell myself just calm down and rest? I think that's where my mind really is. This is what's coming up for me. It's just like,
we'll be back after a quick break.
This episode of the Ambitious Bookkeeper Podcast is sponsored by my brand new free training, The Ultimate Guide to Creating a Profitable Bookkeeping Business. In just 1 hour, you will learn 3 keys to creating and launching a profitable bookkeeping business. We will map out your path to creating a bookkeeping or accounting business that keeps you in control of your time, priorities, and expertise. From someone who built a 6-figure firm on part-time hours. That's right, you can stay in control of your time, keep family as your priority, and serve your clients well. It just takes a little strategy up front, and I'm going to help you with that during this free training. So head over to the show notes to sign up now for the next training and find out how you can choose the work you do, kick imposter syndrome to the curb, use tech to be super efficient, which all leads to a profitable business. Just head on over to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/training, and I will see you there.
I think I'm so used to doing that now that I don't necessarily have to do, but I'm just so used to it. I hope I'm explaining that properly, but it's kind of complex. You know how maybe I need a therapist more than a podcast interview.
Well, that might be part of it. One of the things that, because I can completely resonate with that too. Sometimes, like some of us, it's just easier for us to be busy. Like, and it also, sometimes that's a coping mechanism, honestly. I would maybe examine some like internally, like if I'm not working, what would I prefer to do? Like, do you need to maybe get back into a hobby that you used to be into, or discover something new and try some different things out? Like putting that type of stuff on your calendar so that you're not just inclined to work all the time. And like, it's going to be hard. Like there's times where I'm like, there's always something you could be doing for your business, right? There's always some like, networking or connecting with people or setting up a system or doing whatever, doing some social media posts, whatever it is, there's always going to be something and it's always going to be there. Maybe even the client work, right? But at a certain point, you kind of want to be able to like draw the line and say, okay, like, but is that really like that important? Is that really going to move the needle? Is that really like, is there a specific goal that that's going to help me get toward, or am I just filling my time because that's what I'm used to doing? And what else could I fill my time with? Like, is there a hobby that you used to be involved in or something?
It's funny you said that because I'm literally looking at it right now, and I because of all the things, my brain was like mush lately, and it was like, I need to calm down, and so I'm gonna actually show you. It's cross-stitching. I don't know if this is gonna come up on my thing, but you see,
Oh, embroidery.
isn't that nice?
Yeah,
I'm very proud.
I love
This
that.
damn virtual background. So I did get back into that, and so that's my thing. I love it very much. But what I find is, I agree. I need a life. I need a life. Basically, it's hard because it's like I love what I do. I'm sitting here thinking about. It's that weird line when work is not work. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like literally, like doing the course is like, oh, that's my treat. Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna do my work, and then I'm gonna do week 3. We're gonna do cash flow forecasting, and I'm gonna sit and I love it. I love it. But I also recognize that as much as I may love it, it's not necessarily the best thing for me to always just be on and that part of my brain going. So for me, like now bringing on the team, it's a different part of my brain that I have to exercise. So that's kind of refreshing. But yeah, I'm making those efforts. I have my hobbies and stuff, but I don't know. I think I just need a vacation. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's it too. Maybe you need to schedule yourself a vacation, and leading up to your vacation, make a plan to have pretty much things delegated to a point where like you don't have to answer anything. Like everyone has kind of like, maybe that's your next project of like getting your business to the point of, okay, like I'm going to schedule this vacation for, whatever, a couple months from now. By that point, and you have to obviously communicate this to your team, is like, by that point, I would love to be able to take this vacation and actually be completely unplugged. So let's develop a training plan so that everyone can hit the ground running and understand how to handle things. And then figuring out like what could wait for you to come back versus what is an emergency or whatever. Right.
More urgent. Yeah. I have my training plan with them is like the first 2 months is just kind of like training on how we do things, even like productivity, like time blocking, and just explaining like, how do I fit all the things into my life? This is how I do it. These are the tools that I use, and getting you comfortable. Honestly, the first basically month is just that, and then aside from that, we're doing the training of how to do the work. And fortunately, because it's cyclical, like I guess 2 weeks or so, they're going to shadow me do the work. And so that's how that is. So I'm just going to slowly kind of give it to them. You know what I mean? But I hope by the end of the summer, they should be at a place where I can just be in the review and the quality assurance check, But I feel like, I think I hesitated getting a team because it just felt like another task to do. And it fell in my lap. The timing was crazy good. And so I was just like, all right, I'm going to go with it. But
a lot of times what people don't anticipate or realize when you start to build out a team is that just the type of, like, you're still going to be working in the business, most likely, at least for a while. It's just the type of work that you're doing is now shifting. Instead of you actually being the one going into the client's books, doing the bank reconciliations, doing all of that, you're shifting that to someone else's plate. But now your work is in the review capacity or the teaching or mentoring your team and coaching your team. So the type of work you do just begins to shift. Like, for instance, you mentioned that like I have my businesses, whatever. I don't do a lot of the actual client work, and I haven't in a long time. I have a couple clients that I do myself, but the majority of the client work is done by the team. And more of my time is actually spent helping them troubleshoot things, answering different questions, little things that come up that are not within the norm, like answering those questions and just like meeting with the team and like giving them a time and space to like ask me questions that they have or just talk about their goals, things like that. And
Mhm.
so a lot of times when people build out their team, it doesn't feel like work anymore because you're like, I'm not actually doing any of the work. I'm just kind of like here as a resource for my team. But like, that's what you get to do as the CEO.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And that's the thing. Like I'm definitely like I even discussed with them kind of like what the job progression would be. You know, of course they come in as like the bookkeeper, but if and when it makes sense and if I see their skill set matches, that they wanted to get more involved in preparing the reports and now starting to look at it and you know, things that I look at versus the technical, you know, portion, the foundational things. I'm happy to coach and grow that too because it's something I enjoy doing. I like talking about it. So I like to,
Yeah.
if I find that with them too, I'd share that. But it's like I don't want to not be busy. I don't know. Maybe it's a coping thing. I don't want to not. I don't want to have a team to not be busy. I know people like, oh, get your business to go on autopilot and you know make all the money and your team does the work. And I don't want that. I like knowing what's going on. I like seeing, oh, there's the client. He went to Cheesecake Factory again. You know, he loves Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. I like that. I like that. I don't ever want to be so bird's eye view that I lose that connection. And like, one of the thing is that I decided with my firm, I want to intentionally be small. I don't want more than 25 clients, maybe 30, but maybe 25 solid relationships that I support and my team supports.
Yeah.
And that's by design because I like the intimacy that you build when you have that relationship and you're helping someone build their dream. Like I don't want to lose that part of the vision. So for me, I think I want to make more Barbaras. I want other people who can do what I do and enjoy as much as I enjoy it. That's really the point for me. So I was talking to them and I was like, who knows, in a year's time, maybe we'll have junior bookkeepers to help support you guys. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I see the next 2 years. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So what is it that you like when you sit down to do work? What is like the first thing that you're actually drawn to be doing? Like, what do you enjoy the most?
I like taking hot messes and making them clean. And so it's because I don't have a particular industry niche. It has been like I signed a travel agency recently, and it's very interesting the way the model works and how they get paid by their parents' agency and things like that. And so there are certain tools that have to be in place for them to get paid, but then we had to kind of reconfigure and figure out how to make things make sense and also track commissions because she needs to figure out her cash flow and all the things. I love that. That's what I sit with. I'll sit with that and I'm like, okay, this goes here. Let's look at this tool. This tool costs too much. It doesn't even make sense. Let's look at something else. And so that I love to do. And then once I put that together, then it's putting it together. So I have like today after this call, I have to do a diagnostic and I have 2 setups to do this week. So by Friday, we'll see if I get those done. But that's the part that I love. I enjoy taking it apart and putting it back together. And then once I get it together and it's just doing the work, it's just maintaining it. That part's just, I'm neutral. It's not that I don't like it. It's just, I love the mental gymnastics of trying to figure out a problem. I'm the problem solver. That's what I love. So those are the things that I'm drawn to more.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I like doing the project work more than
Mhm.
the
The
maintenance
maintenance.
and like setting up the process and what the
Yeah.
workflow should look like, and then handing it off to
Yeah.
someone
And thinking it through.
whose strength is to continue to just maintain things and follow a
Mhm.
process, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So I think you're in a good position the way that you have things set up. If your plan is to like you continue to do the onboarding and the cleanups and things like that, and then once things are to a point where there's a process in place, you hand that over and train somebody else on your team and they
Mhm.
maintain it going forward. And you can even get to the point where you're not necessarily the one doing the review either, if that's
Yeah,
something that you
definitely.
want.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that for sure. I think they're just new and I just threw a lot at them in terms of just welcome to Elmwood. So, but that's the phase for sure. I want them to get to the point where they can check their own work, look at the balance sheet, this thing is off, fix that, blah, 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 all the things. But the part that I'm definitely going to continue owning for the foreseeable future is the communication with the client, because essentially I'm the relationship. I'm the one who signs them. They know me, and I don't want them to feel like, oh, I sold you a dream and then I signed you off and you never talked to me. You know what I mean? So, and I'm comfortable with that. And my clients are not needy at all, very respectful of my time. So I don't mind being open to them. They don't abuse it. So that's fine.
How are you feeling with the current like training plan and everything that you set up for your new hires? Is there anything that I can support you with that, or you want to walk me through like the plan that you have and we can kind of jam on that?
So funny enough, again, because I really feel like God sent them to me, because I had Gina and Cindy. So I have Gina, who I was going to put through the ropes for Zero. And then Cindy came to me, and because she actually had some experience working with the CPA, I'm like, I'm going to give you QuickBooks, but they're not certified in the software. They've never, they're starting from scratch. So my thought is I'm having one learn and do QuickBooks. I'm having the other learn and do Zero. After some point in time, we're going to swap them, and they're going to help each other learn so that they're building their confidence in communicating. Because when you communicate something, that means you understand it more. And then that way I have people cross-train, because I'm also a Zero girl. I love Zero. I would love to say that the goal 2024 is to be fully Zero, but the world we live in, I don't know how realistic it is, but fortunately for me, I think I've been able to put like 5 clients on Zero and pull them out of the QuickBooks ecosystem, which is nice. Yeah. So, but that's my plan. I want one person to kind of be the subject matter expert for QuickBooks and the other one for Zero. And because they're starting with me, and the plan, I don't want to have more than like 5 on the team, including me. So like 2 more people, but I want them to be like, one's a QuickBooks expert, one's a Zero expert. They help each other learn the other systems, and then they always will have me as the source of truth to figure out all the things. So that's my plan, because I want them to know both systems. And I just feel like I was just like, I'm not going to have you learn 2 systems at once. I didn't do that. So
yeah, that's a good plan. Excuse me. So as far as right now, they're kind of learning the ropes of like the internal systems that you're using. I'm guessing like workflows, communication, that kind of stuff.
Right. Asana, I set up their team inboxes and had to figure out, I listened to one of your episodes about like the 2-factor authentication codes and how that can get kind of bottlenecked and stuff like that. So as a tip, I don't know if for anyone how I'm dealing with it. So I have my Google Voice my Google Voice is my business line. And so I have it forwarded to an email. And so I have that email auto forwards to like a distribution group. And so on that group is everyone on the team, so that if anyone is requesting a code, it goes out immediately to everyone on the team. And it's a nice visibility thing too for me. I'm like, oh, someone was working at 3 a.m. I see a code was requested, you know what I mean? Which is fine. I don't care when they work. But that's how I resolved that. But again, I was listening to what you said. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I don't want to be a bottleneck. So I set that up. So there was a keeper and Asana. I did little Loom videos and explained to them, this is how I do things. And I kind of basically made like an Asana handbook, a video handbook. And I'm like, go here, do this, blah, blah, blah. So they're kind of going through like their own self-paced orientation. And then in 2 weeks, we do a check-in to say, how do you feel? And I just kind of regimented like, and thank God for like YouTube. There's so many excellent resources for Zero and YouTube. So I'm kind of like, this is the navigational thing. Like, this is how you're going to navigate the system. This is how you're going to do X, Y, Z. And so once they kind of do that first round, then it's do the certification, because I think that really kind of gives them a deep dive. So that's the phase we're in right now in terms of training. So they're not touching anything client work right now, which is fine. I can manage, because by the time they get started, I want them to be like so eager. I'm like, I just want to apply what I've been practicing and stuff. So it's kind of like a little appetizer for them first. And it's cute because we're on a group chat now, and we're like I sent them a video, a productivity hack for like time blocking. I'm like, guys, check out this video. Oh my gosh, this is cool. So we're all geeked out and like productivity nerds, and it's nice. It's a nice vibe so far.
Good. Do you
Yeah.
have specific clients you have in mind that you're going to hand off first for each one of them?
Yes, definitely.
Good.
I have a smaller client, like a micro client, honestly, and he's in zero, super easy. So I know I'm going to give that client to my zero bookkeeper. And then for QuickBooks, I have a quarterly client that I think would be perfect because by the time that she's done doing all the things timeline wise, it'll be time to do the bookkeeping quarterly. And so the timing was just so beautiful. So I'm like, I'm going to give you this one client. And so that's that. And so depending on how that goes, we can start to give them more and see how they feel. But I want to kind of just titrate it little by little. I don't want to overwhelm anyone. I want them to stay with me. So
that's a good plan. Yeah, I always recommend, like, it sounds like you're doing everything correctly. Like, you start off with like, let's learn how we use our systems internally so that they're familiar with like how I expect you to be using Asana and how I expect you to be like checking the email and responding to things like that. And then making sure you have that one client lined up to where you're ready to like train them on it, hand it off. And I think you mentioned before, you're going to have them shadow you first and then work on their own. I also recommend setting up co-working sessions. So if you can, like, especially as they're, learning and working in a virtual environment is different for some people, and people can feel pretty disconnected. So one of the things that I always like to do is making sure that you're meeting with your new hires at least weekly at the beginning. And then you can kind of taper off as you gain more confidence and trust in them that they'll come to you with questions when they have them, but at least creating that space for them to come with, even if they don't come with any questions every time, just it's kind of having that open door, right? And the opportunity for them to just, talk about things, even if it ends up just being a personal conversation, that's still building the relationship and building trust, right?
Yeah. When I sent them their welcome email, I sent a meeting link for a team check-in. So right now they do have other jobs. So the windows for the scheduler link or whatever are Saturdays and Sundays. There's a time block in the morning and one in the evening. So they can pick one of 4 sessions to just check in and just say, hey. But I didn't make it necessarily weekly yet. I kind of want them, I told her, like, just when you're ready, reach out, like just reach out. But like you said, if 2 weeks pass and I don't hear anything, I'm just like, hey, let's check in.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I've noticed because in corporate, I led a team as well. And it's almost better to have stuff scheduled recurring every week, even if you end up canceling them, rather than waiting for someone to reach out, because then before you know it, it's like been months and you guys haven't met one-on-one. So I'm always even like, cause I get it too. My team is all part-time as well. So the scheduling thing is a little bit different, but we always have one day where the whole entire team meets at the same time. So we do a whole team huddle, and that could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour or whatever, where everyone kind of gets on the same page. We all talk about projects we have going on or client work or whatever it is. And it's also an opportunity for everybody to get me in one place and get me to answer questions. And everyone kind of is just aware of what's happening all together. So the weekly team meeting is like non-negotiable. We have it every week.
What tool do you use for that? Because I think I have a little. Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we just do a Zoom meeting. We also have
but
Slack.
can you set reoccurring Zoom meetings on? Because I use HoneyBook as my CRM, and so it's connected to Zoom, but like it doesn't give me an option to like set a recurring meeting. So can I do that right through Zoom?
Yeah, I do it right through Zoom or right through my calendar, right? The Gmail calendar. And then we just set it as recurring. We invite everybody, so it blocks off their calendars as well. And there's occasionally times where, like, honestly, there's times when last week I was super sick. And so I just told the team, I was like, I'm not going to make it to the team meeting. You guys still meet without me. So like, it's always a connection point. Like, we start off the meetings with sharing a win, and then we like give a win. So like, I have a personal win, whether it's a personal thing or a work thing or whatever, I'll talk about that. And then I give a win to someone else, like basically showing appreciation and seeing someone else like go above and beyond. We always do that too. So we go around the room and do that. And that pretty much takes up like half an hour because there's like 3 or 4 of us. And
I was
so
gonna
it's
say,
a
how
really
big is
good,
your team? Yeah.
yeah, it's a really good opportunity for people to just kind of connect on a personal level. And then we go into kind of like an agenda where it's like, okay, if we're in the middle of month end, we do client status updates so that everyone is kind of like, okay, this is where I'm at with this client. If there's anything blocking them from finishing and they need me to like jump in and communicate with the client, or if it's like, I need you to look at this because I'm stumped, then we sometimes we'll do that on the call together. That way it's just knocked right out of, the queue. And then we'll talk about like projects, if there's any projects that we have going on, and like I'll update people like what's coming up. If I've got some discovery calls scheduled, hopefully some of these turn into clients, we can expect, more clients to be coming on, those kinds of updates. Right. So
Do
everyone
you keep discovery calls with you still? Cool,
yeah, right
cool.
now I'm still doing them all. And then, yeah, so it's just a kind of an opportunity for everybody to be on the same page and also just build that camaraderie.
That's true.
So even if you don't do one-on-ones with each of your team, I like to still have like a weekly team meeting, even if it's just like 20 minutes, like a 20-minute check-in. But I meet every other week currently with the rest of my team. When, like I said, when they're new hires, we meet weekly as they're going through training and as they're learning things. And sometimes those meetings are like working meetings where it's like a co-working session where it's like shadowing, right? Like you're going to shadow me and then you're going to take it and run with it. Or it could be just checking in, basically, like, how is the training going? Like, is there anything that you have questions about? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Things like that. And then once they get into a pretty good rhythm, we switch to every other week. Otherwise, you're going to be in meetings all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I find that I'm in meetings a lot lately, but for a multitude of good reasons. But again, I think that's just because I'm in growth mode. So I'm kind of like, all right, I need to ease off, take the foot off the gas, off the pedal. How is it? The pedal off the gas?
The foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah, the foot
But
off
yeah,
the gas.
another thing too is if you do find yourself at a point where you are like always in meetings and you're not able to like create that time and space to do any of the deep work, right? Whether it's planning or, doing that cleanup that you just took on or whatever, I block off certain days of the week that nobody can book meetings with me, so that I have at least 1 or 2 days a week where I know there's not going to be meetings. So I can spend that either doing deep work or taking the day off.
Yeah.
Right.
I
highly
do
encourage
that. It ends up being like I'm looking at my week now. It ends up being because I have like an evening window, one afternoon window, and one morning window. So I take meetings 3 times a week, and that's by design only because one of my value adds is that I'm available for you, or we're available to you. And that's fine with me. Like I have no issues. I have like an 8:30 to 10:30 window on Tuesday. And then I do a Friday afternoon and then a Saturday morning. So it's kind of like, what? And when people look at the availability, they're like, what is this? But then like I have 2 calls booked tonight in the evening, and it's just helpful. Business owners are busy. They have families, and I'm busy. I have family. So I don't mind after life, then they have an evening window. So I think that's really been popular with some of the clients that I've signed. And then a Saturday morning. So the rest of it, like I'm blocked off. They can't book me, but I'm like, where does my time go? It's just all the things. And so when I did kick off with Asana, there was like the challenge to do a time audit. And I found that I did a lot of business admin. I was doing a lot of business admin. And so it was like restructuring my templates, tweaking my website, da 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 da. And it's busy work, but it's not, because it's like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And then because I did all the busy work for so long, when it was time to turn up the volume, everything was done because I've been doing and fixing and doing,
Yeah.
So I think that like blocking, and then even today, for some reason, I was doing a test with my camera, and I'm like, I have this call today. I have 3 calls. I have 2 other calls. My camera wasn't working. I had a call this morning. My camera wasn't working. I go to Best Buy. The guy can't help me find a camera. Long story short, I had a button pressed on my laptop. And then 10 minutes before our call, I figured out that I had turned the camera off. So I wasted an hour and a half going to Target and Best Buy to buy a webcam for this call. So it's like stupid. like that happens.
Yeah,
But I think I'm just stressed out. So I didn't see that. You know what I mean?
it
I think I just
happens.
need to chill out.
Yeah. Sit down, block off some time for your embroidery, try to clear
Yeah.
your mind. Don't worry about always being on and busy. And also have grace with yourself, though. Like, it's okay to think about your work and your company and what you can improve while you're doing your embroidery. Like, I think that's another thing that some of us beat ourselves up over is like, oh, I need to completely unplug and I need to have this complete separation between work and life. And that's just not the reality as an entrepreneur
Yeah.
to be able to just turn it off. And
Yeah.
sometimes some of your best ideas and your best problem solving is when you do step away and allow yourself to think about it. Does that make sense?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's very
So
true.
don't beat yourself up about always thinking about work because it's not necessarily a bad thing, but definitely do schedule time to work on your hobbies. And the more that you separate, like allow yourself to have that separation and like not be busy all the time, the more addicted you'll get to it. Like you'll start getting more
Yeah.
addicted to like, what else can I delegate? Like what else can I
Yeah.
get off my plate so that I do have that time freed up? And maybe you free up the time and it's still during your work hours, but now you have like more brain space to like actually think through the problems and think through how to solve things, or, you know, and not have everything back to back and have like a little more space in between. So
Yeah. I've been thinking about doing, and I haven't honored this yet, but I'm like, I mean, it's Wednesday, but I want to think about doing real time blocking where I'm like, okay, I only do actual client work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, from like 9 to 1. That's it. Then I have like a business admin block, So one thing I've been doing, which has been helpful, I use this thing called Boomerang where I pause my inbox. So things are coming in, but I don't see them until I want to see them. So I'm weaning myself off from having to check my emails so much. And it's just a bad habit, honestly. There's no need. It's not like there's crisis to solve. But I find that I just had these bad habits that are like time pits or whatever. So that I've been pretty good at. I'll pause my inbox when I'm in a work session and it's like I'm not tempted to look, and then I'll put my phone on silent. So that helps. But what I find is like, because the deadlines are internal, right? So I can tell someone, imagine if they onboard and I have all the things I need, which sometimes takes 30 minutes in itself, 30 days. But in any case, when I have the work to do, there's no real hard deadline that says I need to get this done by X. So I'll be like, okay, it's the 1st. And in my mind, I want to finish this by the 10th because I can do this, And so I end up pushing it and pushing it and pushing it because I'm like, oh, I'll work on something else. Oh, I'll work on something else. I'll work on something else because I know I have time. So that I'm like, okay, let me put out this little fire and this little fire. And then all of a sudden I cleared everything out, but then I have all this client work sitting there because I did everything else but the client work. So now I have like 4 projects to work on at once instead of the one that I could have staggered.
I think that's really common. And I would say like kind of the question I had before, like when you sit down to work, like what's the work that's like actually lighting you up? Maybe like in your mind, you think it's doing the cleanups, but if you're having difficulty getting started on those cleanup jobs and doing other little things instead, here's a couple things that I've noticed with myself is sometimes I don't like to sit down and start a project unless I think I can finish it in one sitting. So if I'm like, this is probably a 4 or 5 hour job, so I'm not even going to start it unless I have that 4 or 5 hour block, right?
That's exactly what it is. You're right. That's exactly what it is.
So that's why I'm saying, make sure you have at least a day or 2 per week where you do have that complete uninterrupted time so that you have that space on your calendar to work on those big, deep projects. Because if you're like me, which it sounds like you are, like, I don't even like to start a project unless I think I can finish it. But the crazy thing is oftentimes is I finally get to the point where I sit down and I start the project and I finish it in like an hour. And I'm like, I could have done this like a week ago.
Yeah, I think it's like the anxiety of all the moving pieces and like I'm overthinking it probably. That's very true. But I think that's absolutely right. Like I'll work on something and then it, I don't like breaking things up. Like I don't like the break in the thought process.
Yeah.
But then I end up just doing all the other things. And just recently, it's just been so like this is probably the busiest season this past 6 weeks since I started. Since I said, "Hey, I want to be a bookkeeping business," And it's kind of been hell. Like my eye was twitching, and this was like the corporate eye twitch.
Yes.
I used to have a corporate eye twitch, and I was like, I'm working too hard again, and it came back. I haven't had this twitch forever.
Yeah,
So I
I
said,
had that too.
yeah, and I was just like, no, Barbara, this is not what we're doing. So I was just like, I need to reassess my productivity habits because something's getting lost in the sauce. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. I
So
would
you're right.
definitely recommend like having specific days where you're available for meetings. Cause for me, if I have one meeting in a day, it kind of doesn't ruin the whole day, but it's like
It takes up a
today,
lot of the
I've
time.
literally been on back-to-back meetings. Well, not back-to-back, like there's been like 30 minutes to an hour in between, but I had today open for lots of meetings and people booked them because that was like the only availability, but I've been meeting since 8 a.m. And I just
Mm.
know like there's only tiny little tasks, like little admin tasks, like checking email or whatever that's happening in between. Other than that, like I'm just dedicated to all these meetings today. And then tomorrow is another meeting day, but like the day after that is no meetings, no nothing on the calendar. And that's where I'm going to sit down and do deep work. And I
Deep work.
know that I have that available to me. So it's like, I don't have to stress in between meetings about getting things done. So that's what works for me. I don't know. Give it a try.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what do you think about the way I've approached my meetings in terms of availability? Like I literally have like a 3 hour block of meetings Wednesday. Then I have one like a 3 to 4 hour block on a Friday, and then a 3 hour block on Saturday. And the reason for me, I was like, I tried thinking of doing a full meeting day and trying to just stack them all in. It's too much. I don't know.
Yeah,
Emotionally,
know
I can't handle
yourself.
it.
I wouldn't do that if they were all client meetings. Like these are podcast interviews and things
That's
like
true.
that. So it's
Yeah.
a little different, like preparation wise. As
Yeah.
far as like client meetings, I probably wouldn't all day meetings either, because there's usually like a follow up that needs to happen after the client meeting, or like we made some changes, have to reissue financial statements or whatever. So I like to
Mhm.
have time blocked off after my client meetings for that. But for anything else, like I just know it's still going to be like related to those meetings. And I like the way that you have that different staggered availability, as long as you don't have availability every day. That's what I'm saying.
No,
Like
no,
have
no,
at
no.
least 1 or 2
Absolutely
days per week that give you freedom from worrying about anything being on your calendar, so that you can either A, work on that big cleanup job or onboarding a client, or knock out a bunch of client reviews, or like literally take the day off if you want to. So I'm a big fan of like having one of those days on a Friday or a Monday that you never ever schedule meetings on. So, like if I wanted to, I could take a 3-day weekend. Right.
Yeah, that's true. I've been thinking about moving my Friday to the Monday afternoon for that reason. But then I don't know why I didn't want to do that. I had a reason why, but I
I
probably was
don't like
overthinking.
meetings on Mondays. So I actually have Fridays and
That's why
Mondays
I was
blocked.
like, yeah, I was just like, I figured no, I don't want the meeting on Monday. I imagine they don't. So I had Tuesdays and Thursdays like months and months ago. And then I switched my availability, but I might have to tweak it again.
Yeah, just try a couple different things out and see what works. But if it's working for you, stick with it. Just make sure that you do have at least one day a week where you're like, okay, if I'm going to take on a project, I at least know I have one day a week that I can like sit down and have that
Do
big
the
time
work.
block. Because yeah, I'm the same way. It's like, if I don't think I can finish it in one sitting, I don't even want to start.
Do you work with just your laptop, or do you feel stuck to your extra monitor? Because I find that there's days I want to maybe go to a library or just get out of my house, but I'm so like handicapped without my extra monitor some days.
It depends on the type of work that I'm going to do. Like I would say if I'm doing client work, so let me actually back this up. If I'm doing the actual client work where I'm like the one categorizing the bank feeds, doing that kind of stuff, I can manage that on one screen because it's usually I just have Zero open. It's fine. Maybe
Mhm.
HubDoc or whatever. If I'm doing review, I like to have my two monitors because I like to open up the PDF of whatever it is I'm reviewing and then have the, the bookkeeping software on another screen. So I would say for me, it depends on the type of work that I'm doing. Sometimes like I'm like you too, where I like want to just take my laptop out to the porch or sit on the couch or whatever. And it kind of just depends on the mood. Like sometimes I'll just struggle through dealing with one screen just because I don't want to be at my desk and it's worth it. Other times I'll be like, okay, well, what can I do that really just requires one screen? And then I'll just kind of decide what I'm working on based on that. Like, well, I just need to write some emails or answer some emails or do some Canva graphics. I'll do it then. Right.
Yeah. I've been thinking about getting one of those. I think
Like
it's called espresso. Like it's these monitors that are nice and they attach to my laptop, or it's just something that sits next to it so I can have a little bit more location freedom. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. But okay, that's cool. That's cool.
A good idea.
I think what I'm taking from the call, just listening to myself talk too, sometimes it's just nice to have the space to hear yourself. I feel like, first of all, good job, Barbara. You did good, kid.
Yeah, you are. You're doing great.
Yeah. But not only that, like rest more. I need to schedule in more rest and just life versus doing. And then I want to look at my calendar and my time blocking. In my mind, I want to do like 2 days of solid client work and then a day of business admin because I'm always going. And so fortunately, thank God for Asana, I have a brain dump. So I'll just brain dump my things that are popping up so I don't have to think about them. But then I need a day to either delegate or do. So I'm like, and then I'm going to do that. And I have a VA, it's my sister, but she's my VA now. And so she's going to help me with all like the non-deadline, non-time sensitive stuff that I have to do. So that's great. But she just joins too, and she's getting acquainted. So my hope is in a month's time that I'm feeling the relief of having people to help,
Yeah. I look forward to an update.
Yeah, for sure.
So keep me
I'll
posted.
I'll send you a DM.
Yes, please do. Is there anything else that you wanted to jam on before our time is up today?
Can we talk about Elevate for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. So with Elevate, so I'm actually my plan after Elevate is to split out my packages. I have one monthly package right now, and my goal is to make that kind of the base package, and then, like you said, just roll up the advisory into a more premium package. And so one thing I kind of had a question about is like, do you feel that the base package should still include like the Loom video? Because it's such a good thing to offer. And then like I originally I was going to do quarterly and monthly, and I was like, I got rid of quarterly so quick. I was just like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
So anyway, with monthly, I have my quarterly finance meeting, but I'm like, okay, technically that's my time and prep and all the stuff that comes with meeting with me. So I'm like, if I have this base package, I can do the email recap and the Loom video in my base. And that's still like kind of like a premium base package. And then I have the full enchilada package, which will have access to me and monthly meetings. So what are your thoughts about if I have like the base package and the premium, should the base have any kind of meeting? I know it's up to me ultimately, but like my thought was like, we can do a monthly meeting, but no one ever wants to do monthly. They love the videos, and then having option. What I did is I have options to office hours. So it's in their keeper. And I'm like, if when I send their financials, if they want to talk, like I have one client who always wants to talk, which I love, but not everyone does. So I just have office hours. So you have access to office hours. So my thought was for the base package, just to give them access to office hours. I don't know. I haven't thought it through yet. I'm not sure how I want to separate out the value.
So I'll tell you kind of the reason and the way that I structured things. So for us, our base package includes the Loom video. Like everybody gets the Loom video. Our middle and top package include a meeting, right? I used to include a meeting in every package, but not every client wants to get on a phone call and have a meeting, but some do. So my solution was just having the base package have the Loom video. And if someone really, really wants to have a monthly meeting, then they're now in the next tier, right?
Got
So
it.
that's
Yeah.
why I structured that, because like you, I do feel that the Loom video is very valuable. It also gives me an opportunity to connect with them without, like, some people just don't read emails. They're not like written language, they're verbal or audio. And
Yeah.
so I will basically put the same information in the email that I have in the Loom video, but they kind of like have the option to either watch the Loom video or read the email. The information is in both places, so it's easy, right? So for instance, in our Loom videos, there's still information we needed from them. Like, you haven't filled out your suspense report or whatever, right? And so at the top of the Loom video, I'll talk about like what we still need from them. And I also put that as a bullet point in the email, right? I like to do bullet points in my emails, so it's like really easy
Clean.
for people to digest. So long story short, we include the Loom video on our base package. And then I just ended up increasing our base, like where I used to charge $300 or $400 a month without a Loom video. Now our minimum is $650. Everybody gets the Loom video.
Yeah. And that's
You know?
my thing of thinking about my pricing, because the pricing is $425 and I'm including a lot. And then I realize I'm really undercutting myself or underselling myself. So now I'm like, I have my people on the $425, and then I'm like, do I leave them with the Loom? Do I take the Loom away? They love the Loom.
Is the Loom in scope for those clients currently that are at $425?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm,
You know
mhm,
what you
mhm.
can always do, and this is kind of how I've handled things in the past too, is even when you change your prices and your packages, it doesn't mean you have to roll everybody into that change. Like, you can keep
Yeah.
people where they're at and grandfather them in, and then just
Yeah.
next year do a small incremental price increase, right? Or you could have the conversation with the client and be like, hey, do you even watch these Loom videos? Oh, you don't? We're just going to stop doing them then. And your price is going to stay the
Yeah.
same, because our new package is this and it's this price and it includes the Loom video. But if you don't want it, then we'll just cut it out and keep you at your current price. You could always do that too. And you can handle each
Yeah.
client differently. You don't have to do the same change across the board to everybody. And I think
Yeah.
that's where, like, sometimes people get overwhelmed with price increases and package changes because they feel like they need to fit everybody into the box and like handle everybody the same. But like, you don't have to. Like, you know
Yeah.
your clients, you know which ones are going to be receptive versus which ones aren't, which ones are easier to have the conversation with and be like, hey, do you even watch the Loom? Oh, you don't? Okay, I'm just going to stop doing it then. Or maybe just do
Yeah.
it quarterly, you know what I mean? Or annually even.
That's true. That's true. A quarterly Loom. There's so many ways to slice and dice this,
Yeah.
It's very true. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for scheduling this. This was a pleasure.
Yes.
And I do expect an update. So please
Yes.
post in the group or wherever, send me a DM and let
For
me know
sure.
how onboarding is going with your team and when you've handed off your first client and any other way that we can support you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. Bye. Have a good day.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shoup. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout. And you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Embrace ambition.